I'm a complete beginner when it comes to reading philosophy books. I can't read them like a normal storybooks as the concept just doesn't stick to me. Maybe because I'm not used to the grammar or the way that the philosophers write. But I still want to read philosophy books because I know that there are value in them that normal self-help books may not have. Many of these philosophers spend most of their life or even their entire life thinking deeply of a single idea, and I think that it is valuable to learn from them. So I started to find ways to make reading philosophy books more easier and slightly more enjoyable. And these are the few things that actually helped me. Understanding the background. If you are watching this, you might be a complete beginner when it comes to reading philosophy. You might not even know that there are different types of philosophies out there, like ethics, logic, metaphysics, and many more. So it is important to know what you want to actually study and understand what is it about. And the best way, in my opinion, to figure out what you want to study is to understand what goals do you have in life, then pick a philosophy that relates to that goal, or research the types of philosophies out there and then just pick your favorite one. After you pick the one that you like, dive deeper into them. Research on what is the philosophy about, who are the main philosophers, what questions do they answer, what concepts are being taught, etc. A tool you can use for research is the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy. It is like a very deep, very long dictionary for anything philosophy. Once you know what kind of philosophy that you like, the next step is to figure out what book to read about the philosophy. Purchasing the right book. Once you figure out the type of philosophy that you like, it's time to find the book that explores that philosophy. What I like to do is to search on Google or YouTube the top beginner book on the philosophy type. Maybe something like the best beginner books on Stoicism, or even the best beginner books for beginners if you do not know what kind of philosophy that you like. Then watch some videos and read some of the reviews to see which books that people will usually recommend. Another thing that I like to do is to read the sample or the preview of the book before I buy the book. There are many online resources like Google Books or Libby, if available in your country, that lets you preview a few pages for you to get the hang of the writing style. Because in philosophy, there are different types of writing styles even if the title of the book is the same. Some books are difficult to read where the language of the book is more older and more formal. So one extra tip is to pick the easier translation of the books so that it makes reading philosophy less painful and miserable. The translations that I would recommend is the ones that published by Oxford World's Classic. Compared to other translations, the books are more easier to understand, the wordings are more modern and more new, and it uses lesser complicated words or phrases. The first translation of Discourses by Epictetus that I owned was this. To me, reading the language of this translation was harder than I expected. Every time I opened this book, it felt like a chore just reading a single line of sentence, and it sucks the motivation out of me. So I decided to buy another translation, which is the one by Oxford, and it made reading and studying the book more enjoyable and less miserable. Speaking of motivation, don't read when you are exhausted. There's nothing worse than doing anything when you are super tired, let alone reading a very hard book like a philosophy book. It's like your brain just can't seem to work and you can't move past the first sentence of the chapter. Your eyes just can't seem to move, and even if it did, you didn't really process the sentence that you just read, and you had to just reread the whole sentence again. And after a while, the whole experience of reading the book feels like a chore and you lose motivation to even continue reading the book. We don't want this to happen, it sucks. So it is important that you should read philosophy books or even any hard books when your mind is fresh and focused and your motivation to read the book is there. You are more likely to be focused and actively read and learn about what you are actually reading. You are more likely to use your brain and do research and translate things that you don't really understand, which makes the whole reading experience so much better and less miserable. And once you are in the mood, it's time to start reading. My setup for reading. This is how I usually set up a typical reading session. I have a laptop for note-taking and research. When I don't understand what is written in the chapter, I search summaries online like on Reddit to help me understand it better. I also sometimes use ChatGPT to help me understand the chapters also, and then cross-reference to a summary just in case it gives a false information. I then have a book in front of me with a book stand because it is so damn annoying to hold the book with your elbows or flip the book to take down notes so that it doesn't close on me. I then set up a small goal on how much I want to read that session, maybe 30 minutes or even one chapter. This is so that I know what I'm working towards and keep me focused and motivated to finish that goal or hit that goal. Feel free to take inspiration from the setup if you like. Dare to write on the margins. As I said earlier, reading philosophy books is not like reading storybooks. Each chapter can be dense with lots of information, lots of lessons, lots of concepts, and most likely than not that you will get lost. So to keep track on what I'm learning or make the reading experience more easier or help me understand what I'm reading, I tend to write on the margins of the book. If I don't really understand what I'm reading or what the word actually means, I will just underline the word or underline the sentence or underline the phrase and then just draw an arrow to the margins and then just write the meaning of them. Or maybe I don't really understand the concepts that is being taught, I will also maybe search online on what the sentence actually mean and then write the translation or write the meaning at the margins. Or if there's an important concept or something sticks out to me, I will underline the sentence, underline the concept so that I can easier refer to it in the future. What you can do is to write questions, interpretations, disagreements if you have any, or even summaries of the chapter itself. This is so that it is easier to refer to again in the future if you want to reopen the book. Don't just read philosophy books. While you're reading philosophy books, you do not have to read only philosophy books for the rest of your life. Even for myself, it will make the reading experience so much more painful and miserable, because reading hard books like philosophy might drain your energy and even sometimes lose the energy or lose the motivation to read anything else. So what I like to do is to pair philosophy books with an easier to read non-fiction self-help book so that it gives me a break from reading philosophy books all the time. So if I do not have a mood to read philosophy books or I get tired of reading them, I can just open up the non-fiction easier to read book. Because to me, reading this kind of book is like a marathon and not a short-term thing. So it is important to make the reading experience more enjoyable for yourself so that you can last for longer periods of time. What I'm currently pairing my philosophy book with is The Idiot Brain by Dean Burnett. And lastly, be patient. Reading this kind of hard books will take a long time. For me, reading discourses by Epictetus took me about like 6 months by now, or maybe even a year, because each chapter takes a long time to understand and interpret, because each book have so many chapters and each chapter is so much harder to read, and it mostly takes me about 1 day to read the chapter. So do expect that it will take a long time for you to finish the entire book and fully understand the book. To me, reading books is not just finishing the book, it is also understanding and applying what is being taught in the book in my own life as well. So bringing back to the first point, it is important that you figure out the philosophy that you would actually enjoy reading, so the journey is more enjoyable and reading philosophy books is not like a manual chore for you. So yeah, this is how I made reading philosophy books easier. Anyways, that's my opinion. Bye.